more than anything, I just had like a spiritual revolution, if you will. You know, I wanted to connect to my ancestry and to my lineage more than anything. I felt empty. I felt like something was missing from a spiritual perspective. You know, coming from a Christian family and everything like that. It just didn't. After a while, as a child, yeah, but after a while, when I got older, the stories and everything, you know, from the Bible or from anything, from Islam, from any of these religions, from especially the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, it didn't resonate with me anymore. And I thought, and I was like, there has to be more to this, to my people, coming from West Africa, coming from the transatlantic slave trade. There has to be more to the story. And so I started to delve into the history of my people, and that's when I had a spiritual revolution, which then obviously, you know, spilled over into the music, and I started to rap about positivity and conscious things and things that I think can help our people, but you know, still keep it hip hop. And in my opinion, in the inception of hip hop, that's what it was about. It was about talking about how we can do better and get out of these conditions, as opposed to glorifying the conditions and then potentially making the conditions worse. So yeah, that's kind of what started it all for me. And then I got comfortable with it because people were receptive to it, surprisingly. You know, I was like, I'm gonna just make this music for me. I don't care who like it, who hate it. But surprisingly, making that music has opened more doors for me than anything. So yeah. What most hurts me about black people? Not knowing ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing from which we come from. I think that we are we're so wrapped up, in my opinion, with all due respect, because I know people have their own beliefs and their own lifestyle, but we're so wrapped up in different religions and different ideas and the different psychology that was handed to us from our oppressor. So it's just sad to see our people in a state where we don't want to look back from which we come from and try to figure out our people and the lineage of our people and the language, the religion, the culture, the lifestyle, the diet. Like, you know, we just don't care. It's just like it's like a thing of the past that we just don't even acknowledge anymore. So that's the saddest thing for me. And then secondly, of course, where we're at, you know, economically, within this whole system. You know, black people are always at the bottom of the totem pole financially. Everybody else gets to come in here to America and set up shop and prosper financially. They got their own little communities. They got Chinatown, you know, they got Hispanics, you know, in LA, they set up shop. They got their own communities. We don't really have that. We have a small part of that. Like, you can go to like Leimert Park and different situations like that in LA. But for the most part, we don't really have that. And I'm only speaking from my experience being a Southern California kid. It might, like, you know, we in Atlanta right now. It might be like that out here. It might, you know, I'm not sure. But from my experience where I'm from, that's all I know is that everybody else is setting up shop and my people are suffering. Right. So I'm about us as a people galvanizing together and really supporting each other and things of that nature. So knowledge of self and economics is the two things that hurt me about our people. Okay. Absolutely not. I mean, first of all, when people talk about the word like racism is, I mean, you could play a little game of semantics with the word, but really, racism is the ability to affect change because you're racist, meaning you have to be in a position of power to inflict your racism. Like, if I walk down the street and just say something crazy like, oh, I don't like that white person, oh, I don't like that Asian person, like, that's just prejudice or just my personal whatever. But if I was in a position of power, like on a global scale or a governmental scale, and I was able to inflict that based upon my prejudice and my racism towards, you know, black people or any people, that's what then really makes it racism. So institutionalizing the thought of not liking somebody because of their skin color is what I would call racism. So being on the opposite end of that and trying to fight for our rights and fight for our people is not racism, you know what I mean? But it automatically, if you are quote unquote passionate about it or extreme about it, you know, you get labeled in that manner. I'm very passionate about being pro-black and being proud to be black and being Pan-African. However, I would be doing the same thing that my oppressors did to my ancestors if I dislike somebody because of the color of their skin. So I never dislike anybody for the color of their skin. I more so have issues with people based on their thought process. I can sit down with a white person, have a conversation. We can talk about anything. We can get along, talk about sports, talk about whatever, and have dinner and be, laughing and having a good time. And as soon as we get to a conversation about race or the state of black people in this country, if they're unwilling to concede to the realization that there is a such thing as white privilege, there is a such thing as institutionalized racism and oppression, that's probably where we draw the line. So now we're just drawing the line on difference, on we disagree about these topics. I'm not drawing a line with you because you're white and I just don't like you because your skin color. Like that's crazy. We're just we're drawing the line and we're disagreeing on these topics, and that has nothing to do with anybody's skin color, because I've had disagreements on these topics with black people. Black folks would tell you, oh, we fine, ain't no more slavery. Why y'all complaining? We got millionaire athletes and we got this and that, and they don't really understand how the system works from top to bottom. So I even argue with them about it. So it's never my pride in who I am and my ancestry is never an attack or to oppress anybody else. It's just to have pride in something that was stripped from me that I'm trying to get back. And I think that everybody should have pride in who they are. Europeans should have pride in who they are. Italians, Africans, whatever, native, indigenous people. Everybody should be proud of their ancestry, and nobody should be pushing their agenda or their ideas on one another. It's just that unfortunately for us, we come from the bottom. So we fighting, and so when we fighting to get up there, it's being perceived as racism and whatever. And quite frankly, I mean, our people have every right to be upset and to be angry and to be passionate about what we're fighting for. So, whomever doesn't understand that, it is what it is at this point, you know what I mean? But to us that really get it, man, we know what we're doing, and we know that this is not about hating or hatred. This is about love for ourselves and love for our ancestors and love for our history of us as a people. The same way I got quote unquote woken up is because others before me put in the work to put the information out there. Dr. Ben, Dr. Henry Clark, Ashwa Kwesi, Theophile Banga. I mean, these are some of the older master teachers that passed on already, that was putting in a lot of work in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and bringing the information about us as African people. Without them, I wouldn't know that information. So I feel the same way about my generation and the generation after me, being that hip hop is the #1 vehicle, the biggest culture in the world pretty much. I like to use it for something positive. I think hip hop is about spreading messages and getting an agenda across. I mean, that's what it was created for. The frustration of those young kids in the South Bronx in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, or whenever the actual date was when hip hop was originated. The whole point of it was, we need something for us. We don't got nothing. Let's create something. They use that African ingenuity and they put it to work with that stuff that's already in our DNA. We already naturally got rhythm. We already, this is stuff that we come from the ancestors that was already doing that on the continent. So they put it together and they created this thing called rap and this thing called hip hop, and it really was just to talk about our struggle and what we go through. So to me, there's no point of rapping or doing anything if you're not going to say something of some substance. It's cool to have fun and make records to dance and laugh to. That's all good, but the real purpose of this instrument that we're using, this vehicle that we're using, I believe, is to relay messages, is to communicate something that is of some benefit, besides just having a good time at the club for 3 hours, Once again, it's just a separation of people with knowledge of self and those that don't have it or don't care to have it. I mean, I feel like anyone who would say, I don't care about that, I'm just trying to make money, the same type of person that'll sell out their mama. What's the difference? Somebody come to you and say, hey, let me buy your mama for $5,000. If you all about money, you might sell your mama. So it's the same thing. Like if that's your take on life, then I don't know what type of person you are at the end of the day. Now, if you say, I'm gonna make my money, I'm gonna sprinkle it, I can dig back. Like, I'm gonna make this club record, I'm gonna make my money, but I'm gonna sprinkle gems in here in my album. That's all good, man. I feel it. You got to make a living. We're still the importance of having knowledge of self and creating messages is still as important as us getting on a certain level economically as well. So I'm never against brothers making money. If you're gonna totally sell out, then that's one thing. But if you're gonna be able to balance it and sprinkle, because even me as an artist, like when I drop my album and when we're working on my project, I'm still gonna have to balance it in terms of still making it entertaining. I don't want to have a whole album where people sitting there like, okay, you beating us over the head with this, like it sounds like a lecture. No, I want you to still have fun. I still want you to dance and still feel, the rhythm of it, the soul of it. As well as hear the words that can pierce your soul and pierce your mind. So you definitely got to have that balance. But totally selling out is something I can't get with. Just I'm one of the guys that really cares about hip hop still. I really care about lyricism. I really care about saying a message. So I would just want people to know, like, if anybody's wondering, does real hip hop still exist? Does anybody really still care about messages? And not that we don't have artists that do this, because we have Kendrick Lamar, we have J. Cole, we got Jay Electronica. We got guys that do it. But I'm just saying, add me to that list. I'm one of those guys that's gonna do that. Probably even more so from a Pan-African perspective. Probably even more so from a perspective of not biting my tongue and not worrying about what people may think. I think that it's important to, if you're gonna stand on it, stand on it. You know what I mean? I'm just one of them people, like, if I say something, that's what I mean, and I'm passionate about my people. So however that comes across, it's gonna come across and it's gonna be authentic. And I'm just one of those dudes that's willing to do it, willing to sacrifice, if you will, a huge career, because it is gonna come with some pushback, like, no, we can't let this guy just come in this game and just flip it upside down. So it's gonna be a fight, it's gonna be a struggle. But I would like people to know that I'm one of them guys that's willing to put in that work for it, because I love our people that much, and I feel like it's that important. I feel like hip hop culture needs it, and that's what hip hop is to me. Rapping with the message, absolutely.
As I walk in these offices playing my positive records, these record execs gon' tell me to get to stepping if they don't hear me repping and some whooping, spitting about looting and shooting, spitting audio pollution. I think it's all an illusion, confusing the youth, doing a bunch of nonsense and glorifying it all for the profit, so green can go in their pockets. Us blacks don't use no logic. The attacks come from our own kind, gotta watch it. When the master tell you what to do, 2016 still feel like it's 1682. They're happy when we choose to be a rapper.